I had breakfast the other day with a friend and I asked how his weekend went, and he said, not so good. And I said, okay, tell me about it. He said, I planned a day away with my family, several boys and a daughter, and they went skiing in another state, and one of his younger sons got in a scuffle with somebody else in the line and pushing each other back and forth. The older brother saw his younger brother and came to his rescue, and he, being a little more aggressive, pushed around and they ended up in a fight in the line. His wife, the friend I was speaking with, was very embarrassed, and so was he, because his wife was upset. And then the older son was upset that he'd upset his mother, and pretty well the whole day was cast with this shadow of how one thing escalated to another. It reminds me of a principle that's talked about in Scripture about in all organizations, wherever there's people, families, churches, your business. As a leader, there's a real skill in overcoming evil with good. Now, let's define terms. Evil in the Bible sounds like a church word, but really it's just the concept of when you have a good purpose and something erodes executing that purpose, it's referred to as evil. So if you have a good business plan or you have a good team that has a good mission, clear purpose, and there's behaviors going on in the group that reduce the effectiveness of the team to achieve its goals, that's just the idea of evil. We often don't label things that way in today's world. It just maybe not constructive. That might be a better way to say it. Overcome unconstructive things with constructive things. Maybe that's a way to reword this. As a leader, you see this in your groups. We all have bad days. We get in a meeting, we're talking about something, we say, that was a stupid idea. And just the body language, etc., conveys more than was necessary. It insults perhaps someone else. It reduces openness. And the question is, how do you keep this from spiraling out of control? And that's what leadership's all about, whether it's self-leadership or team leadership. What do you do when something like that happens and you're at a crossroads where it's going to either create a reaction that degenerates into more and more trouble? By the way, if you don't manage this well as a team, eventually it turns into a culture. Instead of just a bad day going skiing with this family, if it keeps going on and people overreact to each other, pretty soon you have a culture that guarantees everything's an overreaction. How is it that as a leader, you create an environment where we all recognize we have those kind of days and we all say these kind of things? How do you nip that behavior in the bud so it doesn't spiral out of control? If you're a team leader and you spot this going on, you just stop and say, did you really mean that, Tom, that you're saying that Susan is stupid? And Tom will say, of course I didn't mean that. And you diffuse it. You call him out for saying what he said and the way he said it. You take the onus off of Susan of counter responding and escalating. Now, if you're alone one-on-one, you try to not react to the person, especially if you know them. Instead, you think about, what's my purpose here? I want to help this person. I want to get to the team's goals. And you redirect your behavior to purpose instead of directing your behavior to reacting to the person around you. And that's why the definition of good and evil is so important. Actions that contribute to good purpose are constructive. Actions that reduce the ability to achieve a good purpose are destructive. This is a principle. It's one of the most challenging things in leadership. One, make sure you have a good purpose, but second, to facilitate the way your team interacts with each other so that purpose is not destroyed.